Good morning. In this session, you are going to know about the grid-based clustering methods. Here, what is a grid-based clustering methods here? The grid-based method identifies the finite number of, that means object space into finite number of cells. Any object space in this grid-based different grids that forms a grid structure. Here in the right side indicates that start of the grid, this one. Here object space divided into a number of cells, and then it is a grid space, and that means here you will dividing the information into different cells. Based on the cell you will form the cluster. Here then form the cluster on the grid structure. Here you will form the cluster on the grid structure. Here you have a string. String is a typical example of the grid based method based on a statistical information stored in a structure. Here you have a another two approaches are there. Here clue is a one approach here. That means wave cluster is another approach. Here both are based on a grid based methods. And then one approach here is a statistical information grid. In this section, you are going to know about this statistical information grid. And then wave cluster is a the cluster using the wavelet transformation. And then these are all different techniques based on a grid. Here grid in the sense divided into different rectangular cells. Based on the rectangular cell, you will form the cluster. And then in this case, one approach here is a string. Here, what is a string here? The statistical information grid approach. Here, string is a grid-based multi-resolution clustering techniques. Here, in which the spatial area of input object is divided into rectangular cells. Here, what is a grid here? The grid is a some multi-resolution clustering techniques. In this case here, the space here, how can you dividing the space into the space here? Space divided into hierarchical and recursive way. The several levels you are using here. Here what are the several levels here? The several levels of such rectangle cells correspond to different types of resolution and to form the hierarchical structure. Here you have a different levels are there. The first level, second level, and so on, I minus 1th level, and then ith level. Here you have a different levels, the several levels of cells corresponding to the different resolutions. In this case, how can you represent this one here? Here in this case, each cell at a higher level, the higher level, and then lower level, higher ith level, higher level, low first level. That means in this case, higher level is partitioned into number of smaller cells in the next lower level. The statistical information of each cell is, that means whatever may the statistical information, the statistical information, it's maybe a count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, like that. These are all statistical information. The statistical information of each and every cell is calculated and stored in a certain place, and then this information used for answering the certain kind of questions. Here the parameter, different parameter for the each and every cell. The parameter of higher level cell can be easily calculated from the parameters of lower level cells. Here by using lower level cell parameter, you will identifying the higher level parameters. Here you have a different statistical measures here. The type of distribution, uniform distribution, normal distribution, and then mean, median, standard deviation, like that. These are all different parameters. And then it can use the top down approach, top to bottom, and then to answer the spatial data questions. Here start from a pre-selected layer. Here you will start from the first layer. You will start from first layer, let us assume, or let us assume it starts from I minus 1th layer. Here starts from a pre-selected layer, typically with a small number of cells. For each and every cell in a current level, compute the confidence interval. Here you will calculate the confidence interval for the each and every cell. And then in this case here, irrelevant cells, here you have a n number of cells are there. Here in this case, that means any object not occupied by the any cell. That kind of cells are called as a irrelevant cells. You will remove the irrelevant cells from the further consideration. And then when finish the examining the current layer, proceed to the next layer. Here after completion now the first layer, you will proceed to the second layer. Why? Because it is a top down approach. First starting from the first layer, and then comes to the second layer, third layer, and then I minus one layer, and then ith layer. That means top to bottom approach. And then examine the current layer, then we proceed to the next layer. Repeat this process until the bottom layer reached. Here you will do some, you are performing some operation on a top layer. After that comes to the next bottom layer. After the next bottom layer, and then repeat this operation until your bottom layer is reached. Here when the bottom layer is reached, that means it's over. You have a different advantages for the grid based approaches. What are the advantages here? You have a different advantages are there. Offer the, that means the, you have a string offer the several advantages. Here the first advantages here is a grid based computing or computation is a query independent, because the statistical information stored in each cell represents the summary information of the data in a grid cell, the independent of the query. And then second important one here is a grid structure facilitates the parallel processing and incremental updating. That is another advantages. And then the another advantages here is a method efficiency. The method efficiency is the major advantages. Here string goes through some database once to compute the statistical parameter of the cell, and hence the time complexity for the cluster is order of n. Here order of k, the k is a num, that means you may calculate the order of n, that means n number of cells. Here levels. Here k is a number of grid cells at the lower level. That is a different advantages. Here not only advantages are there, you have a different disadvantages are there. All cluster boundaries are either horizontal or vertical. No diagonal boundaries are is detected. That means the major disadvantage is here. You are selecting the grid here horizontal, either horizontal or vertical, not in a this diagonal fashion. That is a major disadvantage in a this cell. Okay, thank you.